goofy that way. We like 2 wheels rather than 4. And so every year I take a trip on my bike with, sometimes I take more than one trip, but this time I was with 3 friends. We went down to southeastern Ohio to find the twistiest, curviest roads we could find to ride. And so the 3 friends I was with were all Christians, and so we rode from here down to there, and then the very first morning we woke up and we were going to hit these twisty roads. And we were probably about 2 hours into it, and I was following the leader. John was leading us. He had the GPS and all that, and I was keeping up with John pretty good, and the road was twisty, and all of a sudden a little deer jumped out within a split second. I had no time to react, and I smacked this deer. And Ben, who was behind me, he said he saw the deer. It flew 15 feet in the air and landed in a ditch. Well, I've hit deer before, and I was super excited when I hit this deer because my bike stayed straight and I didn't even go down. Right. Which, that's praise number 1. So I was thinking, well, do I need to stop? I'm okay, everything's fine. You know, like, I better pull over, just make sure I didn't break anything on the bike. Well, I pulled over, and antifreeze was pouring out of the bike. So it was a good thing I stopped, because antifreeze is really slippery. If it would have gotten on the tires, I probably would have went down. So, but then from there on, I got off the bike, and before I hit that deer, I don't listen to the radio and things like that when I'm on the bike. I just like to be with my thoughts. And we've been learning in Sunday school how important it is to speak in tongues. So I was praying in tongues, just having a great time. And I'm sure Satan just was trying to knock me off my bike. So anyways, I pulled over, got off the bike, saw that it was damaged, and I was thankful. I'm thankful. I was praising the Lord. In fact, I said to my guys, thank God. You know, this is the first time I've ever hit a deer and not gone down on the road and ended up in the hospital. Several years ago that happened, but so I was excited. And so then from there, we had another friend that lives in southeastern Ohio. Ken went to find a spot where his phone would work. We had no phone service where were we at. So about an hour later, Ken came back and said our friend Brian was on his way. So about a half an hour later, Brian shows up. He's got a truck and a trailer. We load up my bike on his trailer. He tells me, he says, you can take my truck home, you can take my trailer home to get your bike home. He said, let's go to my house. Well, I've got another bike for you to get on, and you can use that for the rest of the week, so your vacation's not ruined. Because we were going to be there all week, and this was Tuesday, and so my week would have been shot otherwise. You know, I would have sat in the hotel room, I guess. But so anyways, within 3 hours, I was back on another bike, having lunch with these guys, and my trip just continued on. So the bike that ended up getting damaged is still in Ohio. I got a call this week with the radiators in, so this week I'm going to go down there and pick it up. But God is just so good. I mean, for 3 hours we stood there with, you know, waiting for all this to come together. But, you know, in 3 hours I was back on my bike, or on a bike, and completed my trip. So I was just super grateful that, number one, I didn't get hurt. Bike parts can be replaced. And just God's goodness in my life. You know, He gives His angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways, lest you dash your foot against the stone. And Connie and I repeat Psalm 91 a lot, especially when COVID came. No evil plague shall come near my dwelling. I've never gotten COVID. I just thank God for that. That's all right. So, that's about the end of my testimony. One thing now that I got the mic, one thing I heard last week, and I was going to share this with Bob and Mary, but I never got a chance to. But I heard a preacher talking about this, and he said one of the reasons that Satan fights the worship time in church so much, people come in late, you know how it is. Sometimes they don't even get here for worship, and I know the sound system, this, and the mics and all that kind of stuff. But one of the reasons that Satan fights that is because that's the only time in church where we're all saying the same thing. We're all in agreement. Yeah. I wanted to get that out.